MF Doom.
You were nothing but a
Fake ass bastard.
A false idol. My eyes have been opened. Let me help you to see.
Fantastic.
Son, shut the trap, save it for the bitches. Delicious, rap snitch delicious.
Doom 2016 is the 2013 sequel to the critically tolerated Doom 3 by id Software. Doom 2016 is id Software's answer to the preceding generation of crusty-ass Call of Duty successors which had been bloating the games industry for the last decade or so. The people's interest in recreating American war crimes had begun to plateau, which led to industry executives allowing their studios more creative freedom after their profit margins had begun thinning out like their hairlines. So Doom 2016 comes out and it's a massive success. Of particular praise was the game's combat which, through clever game design, incentivized the player to never get close to combat encounters and stay stationary and behind cover the entire game. This was accomplished by making the enemies big and scary so you didn't want to be near them. More on this later. These gameplay elements coalesce with a strong science fiction aesthetic, itself meshed with demonic iconography laced with hints of brutal industrial highlights, ultimately creating an experience that absolutely quaked game journalists' little nuts 5 years ago. The game's positive reception made the sequel inevitable, and with a low-key, unobtrusive storyline, it seemed like the series had infinite possibilities. Eternal, even. Doom Eternal is the end sequel to the critically fellacioed Doom 2016 by id Software. The game is an evolution of the previous entry in nearly every capacity, in gameplay, in aesthetics, in disappointing multiplayer integration. Eternal is a culmination of smart gameplay design and fine-tuned mechanics, honed with the experience of the previous game's reception and has since been lauded as a masterpiece by game journalists worldwide. But is this game really the Dark Souls of FPS boomer shooters like the game journalists would have us believe? This is what I will spend the rest of the video discussing, starting with play control. Real tight, like my conscience. Gameplay. Nearly every aspect of the game has been modified to fit a stronger, more streamlined iteration of the previous game's gameplay experience. Environments are outfitted with more versatile movement options. Weapons have been modified alongside enemy types to create a specific niche for every weapon, every accessory, every combat scenario. And Avatar himself now carries an extended arsenal with a new melee attack and multiple grenade types. But the most significant alteration between Eternal and 2016 is a change to more fundamental mechanics. Health, armor, ammo. Each resource is much more limited in the environment and in carrying capacity, forcing the player to take advantage of the game's new equipment and mechanics to resupply themselves within combat directly. This change proved controversial among fans and game journalists alike. Defenders of this change often echo sentiments like, "It's a natural evolution of mechanics pioneered in 2016, or "Diversifying the player's interaction with the enemy and resources enriches the game, not restricts it," or even something like, "People have been asking for a game with this level of precision-crafted mechanics for literal decades." And to all of this, I have to say, have you considered that I don't play Doom for gameplay or even entertainment, but for mindless power fantasies that provide just enough serotonin to prevent myself from performing a super shotgun ballista combo on my fucking frontal lobe in the Wendy's parking lot? Thought not? More on this later. Story. 2016 was highly praised by critics for its minimalist story, which took a backseat to gameplay and knowingly nodded that the intrusive, cutscene-laden conventional storytelling methods most other FPS games utilize. So of course, the logical decision on the devs' part was to fill Eternal with intrusive, cutscene-laden conventional storytelling with little benefit to the overall game. A truly innovative and inspired decision, well worth its inclusion. Well anyways, the story itself is nothing extraordinary. The most original element in the entire campaign is the part where they don't explain anything that happened between 2016 and Eternal. Or maybe they did in the DLC or something, and I wouldn't know, I didn't fucking play it. Otherwise, the game's story is sorta like the Warhammer 40k game we never got. You got your motherfucking demons, your motherfucking shotgun, who needs more than that? Aesthetics. One of Eternal's more outstanding changes to its predecessor is in regards to the game's overall art style. 2016 embraced a sci-fi aesthetic which permeates the entire experience, infecting even the deepest pits of hell. resulting in futuristic cybernetics combined with eon-old depictions of humanity's oldest sins. An original aesthetic that serves to update the original installment's look and personality. Eternal updates to look further, remodeling enemies and weapons to more closely resemble the older games. The zombies are now liberals, and Doomslayer now shoves health flasks up his ass instead of health vials. It's difficult to say whether these changes are improvements or not. Obviously, the video game art style implies a lighter tone, an acknowledgement that the fact that this piece of entertainment is, in fact, a piece of entertainment. Yet simultaneously, the game has a more serious tone and story. So, of the two games, 2016 has the more serious aesthetic and the goofier story, while Eternal has the goofier aesthetic and more serious story. If I were some kind of cocksucker, I would call this some kind of narrative dissonance, but instead I'll just call it a bit of fucky-wucky bullshit. Conclusion. So throughout this essay, I've thoroughly examined this game on its every merit, nuance, and detail. I've analyzed every nook and cranny this game has to possibly offer, and discussed in explicit exposition the finer aspects of the narrative, alongside the possible permutations in gameplay, and defined in definite detail the cohesive product synthesized from all these elements. So now, after final deliberation, it's time to answer the question: is Doom Eternal a masterpiece? Well, you see,
Ho 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 ho